Hi, Jez Park here, working in Blender 2.8 beta. Today we're going to be modelling the Tardis. I bought a model of the Tardis for my son years ago. I'm a bit of a Doctor Who fan, I was, and so I've kept it actually as he's kind of grown up, and I kind of got it on my desk now. And so I've included these images here, which are really the reference images which you need or one needs to do this exercise. And this is what we're going to end up with, the TARDIS here. So it's really two tutorials, one for modelling and one for UVing. The UVing is really just a very simple process. Each one lasts approximately an hour, so it's a 2-hour kind of tutorial altogether. So that's it. So without further ado, let's get started. I hope you enjoy it. Let's begin by removing the cube. Poor cube, there you go. And let's add an image as a plane, images as planes. Let's look for our particular image, and I think I've got it here, TARDIS side 01. Import images as planes, and we won't see it in course until we actually show it in look dev mode. Let's click, actually what's interesting is when the plane comes in, it kind of comes in on the axis I don't like to work in. It kind of, for me, that's the side axis. And if you look at the camera here, the camera normally is placed to the right by default in Blender. And so that's facing the right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that back to 0, like so. And now if I click 1 on my keyboard, it goes to my orthographic view, hold the control, hit G and hold the control down and just move that up. Holding the control constrains it, snaps it if you like. And so here we have our TARDIS ready to model, and we're actually going to use this polygon that the plane comes on to actually use as a as part of our actual modeling process. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to create some collections here. I like to be organized. The first collection I'm going to make is, I'm going to call this TARDIS objects. And the next collection I'm going to make is my lights, later on as we light it. And so the first thing is I drag my light to my lights and my TARDIS side to TARDIS objects. That TARDIS side I'm going to call TARDIS main, because that's going to be my main object. And now let's set about modeling. Now this TARDIS, of course, is, let me just grab a picture I took earlier. This TARDIS, this is a toy TARDIS. That's what I bought for my son when he was about 10 years ago. No, 14 years ago. And you can see it's square. I say it's square. It's rectangular on the sides, obviously, but square on the top. So basically, we've got 4 almost identical sides. So there's no point in modelling 4 sides. So we're going to model 1, but also, apart from pretty much this police call box sign, public call box, it's symmetrical. So we don't really need to model both halves of this. So the first thing we're going to do is pop into edit mode, and using the what's the name of the tool? I've forgotten what it's called. The loop cut tool. We're going to create a loop cut straight down the middle, and clicking 3 on my keyboard, I'm going to select that face, hit delete, and delete faces, and now we're left with our half a TARDIS. I'm going to move it so that we can basically get it ready, if you like, for the actual spacing in 3D space of our TARDIS. And the way I can do that is I can actually find out where in the X space this is and copy that. I'm going to hit Control and C. Now selecting all of my polygon, or my one polygon, I can now hit G and Y to move this, and just clicking in the object properties here, I can Control and V the actual with a minus in front of it. And so that now is going to allow me to kind of have this kind of square, and the way we're going to do that, we're going to add some modifiers to it. And before I do that though, I'm going to add an empty. I'm going to use this empty, come into object mode. I'm going to add an empty, and I'm going to make it plane axis. It's right in the center, which is where I want it to be, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, ready for an offset. So back to object mode. Let's go to our modifier. The first modifier we'll add is the mirror modifier. And before I do anything else with the array, I want to make sure that at the moment I've got some movements, some translations and rotations on my object, and I want to get rid of those, so I'm going to hit Control and A and apply all transforms, and so it zeroes all of my polygons and vertices back to 0. And so my pivot point now is right back in the middle. So now when I add my array modifier, and let's hide the mirror for a moment, let's click off relative and let's choose object offset. I can now choose my empty, and you'll notice that it's rotating 90 degrees, which is what the empty was set to. And if I add another 2 to that, you can see now we've got our square Tardis, which is what we're looking for. So there's some gaps at the moment. The only thing that's really touching is the base, and so our next thing to do is to start separating our Tardis into parts. And using the loop cup tool, I'm going to start with the base, and I'm going to slide this down. I'm going to put a couple of loop cups in here, like so. Select the two faces, and then I'm going to hit P on the keyboard. As I click P, you get this option to separate the object, and I'm going to click by selection, and straight away I've got an option here, a second object. Let's go back into object mode. Second object, Tardis main, and you'll sorry, Tardis main 01, and you see that that's actually the base. So I'm going to just call that base. And for now, I'm going to hide it. Back to edit mode. Let's also cut the top of this box off. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to set all this back so that these two sides are touching, and to do that I'm going to just delete what I don't want from here. I'm going to select that face and hit delete, and now if I move this back, as I move it back, the others will move with it. So I'm just going to demonstrate. As I move it back on the y-axis, it will move back, and I want those two to touch, but I'm not quite sure how far I need exactly. I want it to be exact. So once again, we can use some of the information we have about vertices, etc. So clicking on number 1, we'll find out exactly where these vertices is. Now we know it's in the y-axis it's this much, and in the x-axis it's this much. So if we take that one away from that one, that should give us the distance between these two along the y-axis. If that doesn't make sense, just trust me. Bring up my calculator. So we've got 0.24874 minus 0.22743, and that gives us 0.2131, 0.02131. So let's just do that again. Select and move on the y-axis, and as it comes up, you can see here it's getting close, but it's not quite right. So our 0.02131, 0.02131, and that is exact now. So now we've got a box that's touching. Okay, let's continue to separate some parts. And the next one is going to be using the loop cut. I'm going to cut it off on that lip there. It's kind of a lip. And 3 on the keyboard, select faces, P, separate parts by selection. And now I've got another part here. And I'm going to call that top. Hide that. Let's go back to edit mode. And we've kind of got a door and a door frame. So I think we'll separate the door frame and the door. So let's start with the, whoops, excuse me, let's try again. let's start with the door frame. One loop cut like there, and one loop cut there. Let's do another one there. Like so. 3 to select faces. Select those 3 faces that make up the door frame. P, separate by selection. I'm already in object mode. Let's call this door frame. Hide that. And back to edit mode. We've got this door here, which should just all be one now. So we can hit P to separate that part. Back to object mode. Let's call this doors. There will be 2 of them. Hide that. So we're getting back to the framework of our TARDIS, and I think that's fine. So we'll just work on this now to get this looking half decent. And there's a slight kind of beveled bit here, which now, of course, you don't have to make it exact if you don't want to, and I think a lot of the TARDIS tend to change. You can see it here, and I think it just adds a little bit of detail. So we will add that. And so back to edit mode. Let's get rid of a few of these edges. We don't need that edge anymore, so I'm just going to delete that. Dissolve edges. And do we need that one? No, let's delete that one as well. Dissolve edges. And so let's just add. Okay, now what's happened is when I deleted that other edge, I'm just going to undo. When I deleted this one, it left a vertex here, which meant that when I use loop cut needs quads to kind of work its way through from one end. And so when I used the loop cut just a minute ago, it wouldn't come all the way through. So I'm going to leave that other one there, and then I'll delete it in a moment. Like so. And it kind of stops at the top there, so let's just add one there. And so with those now done, we need to kind of just push these back. So let's use the Extrude E on the keyboard, just push those back a little bit. And we've got some vertices that we should, some faces that we don't need. So I'm going to get rid of those. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and I think that's it. Delete those faces. And now let's add some depth, some thickness to our object. Selecting the edges. I'm not going to select that one there, but I'm going to extrude these back along the y-axis. It's fairly deep. Now, as you will have noticed, they're not in line with each other, and I want them to be. So I'm just going to click on the top view, and then hit S for scale, and then Y for the axis I want to scale them in, and then 0, and that now lines them up. But there's some geometry here that I want to merge, so I'm just going to select one vertex there, G to move, Z it, move it down. You'll see that it's not actually fitting together. There's kind of a gap there. So selecting these vertices one by one, pressing F will fill them, and now I can delete the edges that I don't want, that one and that one. Delete, dissolve edges. So now I've got one nice piece of geometry there. And we would do it at the top, but ultimately there's no point right now, because when we finish this particular section, we can just create one singular top. Although, yeah, that's what we'll do. And so let's leave that for now. Now you'll notice I'm not rounding off anything, or very little. There's very little detail going in here at the moment, because we want to create some UV maps later on, and the more detail we add, now, the longer and harder it will be to create the UV maps, especially with things like bevels, because bevels work quite well with UV maps. And so I'm leaving them just very basic model at the moment. So that's our outside framework done, if you like. And so let's go to the actual door frame. Let's unhide that. Let's go back to object mode, door frame, enter edit mode again. And right now it's not in the right position, so we're going to push that back on the y-axis until it's just hiding under the lip, and then we can extrude that as well, give it some depth like that. Now, one thing I didn't mention, or haven't mentioned, but I'm going to now, is that when you extrude something, it extrudes all of the vertices. And so if I go to wireframe mode now, deselect the faces. In there's a face there which we don't want. So just delete that face. Go back to look dev mode. When I mirrored this, by the way, better just double check. On the mirror option, I did really need to put clipping on, which stops me going over my center point. I haven't done, I know that, but it's always worth making sure that is on. Let's do that for this as well. Okay, so now we've got the base, the framework, we've got the door frame, and we have the base to do. So let's do the base. Now the base at the moment is fitting, almost. It's obviously kind of a little bit of a taper on it, which we need to do. So let's pop it onto the front mode, enter edit mode, and rather than move the vertices, not that it really matters because we're not going to be using these textures that are on this particular image anyway, but just for the sake of it looking nice right now, if I select a vertex and move it along the x-axis, you see the whole of the kind of the UV map moves with it, and it'd be nice not to have that. So if we go to the vertex slide here, there's edge slide and vertex slide. If you click vertex slide and move that, and it will slide along the actual line, either one of the kind of X or Z option. So we move that one in a little bit. Same with this one, like so. And we're getting there. So we need to move these in. So we've got the same options here. Let's get the calculator again. Where have you gone? Okay, so once again we've got a large number and a small number. So let's take the large number. I'm just going to copy that actually. Okay, let's not copy that. Didn't like it. Let's try just typing it. Okay, 0.24874 minus 0.24491 gives us, so we don't need to move this one very much at all, so 0.00383, just put that to one side, select that, move that back a little bit, and 0.00383, that's perfect. Same, now we need to do the same with this particular one. Let's go to vertex mode on number 1 on the keyboard. Let's do the same thing again. So we've got 0.24874 minus 0.22745. That gives us that figure. So select that edge, GY, and we're looking at 0.02129. Okay. So once again, we don't really need to create the top or the bottom of this right now. Once we've applied our modifiers, then we can create those afterwards. So we're getting there. We've got the base, we've got the door frame, we've got the sides, the frame. Let's do the doors now. Let's go back to object mode, select the doors and enter edit mode. Now once again, the doors aren't quite in the right place, so we need to move those back along the y-axis. And now a very simple process of putting some geometry in with loop cut. Can't think of a quicker way of doing this. There probably is a quick way of doing it, but I don't know what it is. There is one thing about loop cut. Just going to undo that one. There's one thing about loop cut that I'm not quite sure if there's a way of doing this. In fact, someone out there might be able to tell me, but is there a way to apply two cuts, if you like, equally, one on each side of the cut? So for example, if I do this now and add two, is there a way of having them so that one comes here and one comes here, if you know what I mean? Because at the moment they're equilateral three, kind of equally spaced, but it's quite nice to be able to move them independently. But I haven't found a way of doing that yet. Almost there. Okay, so there's our door, and so from here, selecting face mode, we just need to inset these slightly. So pressing I on the keyboard, we can inset them, and then holding the control down, we can kind of extrude them back a little bit, like so. And if we go to, oops, wrong one. If we go to solid mode, start to see our Tardis looking fairly sharp. Looks pretty good. Nothing wrong with that so far. So now we've just got the very top to do. So let's go back to object mode, select the top. And the top, I think what we'll do with the top is actually, rather than do what we've done so far with the various surfaces, we'll create another box and we'll do some extruding, I think. Let's try that. Okay, let's start with the cube. Let's get the cursor and Shift and S, cursor to selected. Cursor to selected, and now cursor R. Okay, let's change it to edit mode. Of course, my cursor is basically thinking my selection is down there, so we won't worry too much about it. I can't be bothered to change the cursor. Let's just add a cube. Let's go for it, add a cube. Let's scale that right down. And let's move that up. Like so. Let's apply those transforms. Enter into edit mode. Select the very top. Move it down on the Z axis until it's just about the same size as our lip. Like so. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my top. To go back into object mode. I'm going to take my top and I'm going to just duplicate it just in case I need it there. I'm going to hide that one and I'm going to apply the modifiers to the mirror. Actually, I don't need to apply them. I'm just going to move them back on the z-axis, on the y-axis, beg pardon. Okay, the reason for that is so that I can see them without it getting in the way of my object. Clicking 1 allows me to go to orthogonal view, but before I do that I need to select this particular object and enter edit mode, and just going to select the very top, and you probably guess what we're going to do. We're going to Inset and Bevel. In fact, I can probably do it in this view. So I for Inset. Once again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I for Inset, but this time holding the control down allows us to go up. And letting go just of the control allows us to move it in a little bit. Let's hit I for Inset again. And then I again, we're holding the control. Let's go up. Let go of control. Let's go in slightly. Hold control. Let's come back a little bit high. And almost there. I again. Let's go right in. Still a little bit small. Just scale that down a little bit. And I should have used the control, but I didn't. Let's hit G and then Z just to take that up. Like so. Okay, so there's the top of our police box. And we'll create this bit separately afterwards. But I'm just going to have a quick look at my model. Yeah, there's a slight lip on the front of there, top of that. So once again, hitting I, control, just pull it in. And I think we'll leave that there like so. So we're getting there. We've pretty much completed the basic shape of our TARDIS. And we need to obviously do a bit more details for the doors and that sort of thing. But I think we're probably at a good place to apply some of our modifiers. But okay, let's do this bit here. This bit here, even though it's quite small, looks quite complicated-ish. So I'm going to duplicate that part and then hit P, escape, and then P. So now I'm going to call this tip, for want of a better word. Okay, so have I actually called the right thing, tip? No, I haven't. Okay, let's just call that back ref. And my cube was my original top, wasn't it? So that's now my top main. And my cube 001 is going to be my tip. So let's hide the top main. And we've just got this object here, which is going to be the basis of our creating this particular bit here. So I'm just going to put that off to my left while I do this. So I've got a little bit more than to go on than you can see, but not much. And so let's go into edit mode, and let's start by extruding. Select my plane first, extrude, and it's kind of quite flat along the top there, and so I think if we add a bevel later that should suffice for that. So not a lot to do on that one. Let's now add a circle to this. So now if we add, beg pardon, let's go to object mode. No, before we do that, let's put our cursor at selection. And then now let's do it in this particular mode. Let's add a Cool. Let's scale that right down. Okay, I hit F to fill it. And now we can start extruding this. I'm looking at this one as well here, so it's a combination of this one and this one. Let's inset it. Extrude. Okay, escape that. Scale that down a bit more. Now extrude. There's our kind of inside glass bit. So now we need to, pressing I on the keyboard, rather than inset this one, we need to outset it, but it won't outset. So we just click off it and then press scale. And let's carry on scaling until I'm the same size as I am there. Now we can hit E. And once again, not adding too much detail here. I for inset. And we're going to do I for inset again, but this time holding the control down allows us to add a bit of curvature. I think we're almost there. This clipping, by the way, I think I need to change this. Every single time I come in, I always end up changing that. That clips your view, so you can't get too close, but I actually like to get quite close. This last one will just move up a fraction, and I think that will do for that particular part. Now we need to add, there are kind of 4 struts to this, so we'll just add those. We'll use the polygons that we have, the polygon data we have, just 4 of them. Now let's go to face mode, and okay, so selecting all of these vertices, there are 32 vertices there, so I need 4 poles, so that's, what's that, 4's into 32, 8, so let's go to wireframe. I think that might help me a little bit. Let's go to the top view, and holding the B down, I'm going to select one. No, that doesn't help me. No, I'm going to eyeball it. Hope I get this right. Now I can see that's not right, but we're getting there. Okay, that's trouble with wireframe view. Let's go out of wireframe view. Okay, so 32 faces. I've selected 2 for each arm, if you like, each pole, and that should be even. So 6 vertices and 6 faces in between each one. Now if we extrude those, whoops, okay, I want to extrude along normals, like so. And I think that would do for us. It's not going to be exactly right. Let's go a little bit further out. Whoops. I think that will do. Let's just curve these ends off. I know I said I wasn't going to add too much detail, but probably not going to UV these ones anyway. Let's select those edges, Control and B for bevel, and let's go to object mode. Just kind of get an idea of what that's looking like. Yeah, not too bad. And lastly, we need some cross these kind of bars that are going around the light at the top of the TARDIS. So let's select these. And let's do an inset. No, let's not do inset. Let's leave one there. In fact, I think if we just do the 1, 2, 3, like so. Let's deselect that one there, scale those along the z-axis. Whoops, not the z-axis. Okay, let's change this to active elements. Should be right. No, what am I doing wrong? Okay, medium point is what I want. Okay, let's reselect that one and let's bevel those, give them some depth. And I actually only want, this is going to be a bit of a pain, we're going to select these. When I look back at this video, I know I'm going to say, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. That would have been quicker, but I didn't. So let's extrude those along normals. And I think that will do us. That will do us, yes. So the one thing I haven't done, which I should have done right at the beginning, was saved it. So I'm going to save it now. Tardis 01. So now if I pop the top main back, we should pretty much have our TARDIS. Hide the reference. So now it's just a matter of creating some details. We need to do this box here at the top, don't we? That's what we need to do before we do the details. So let's do that now. Okay, so let's use a bit of geometry we've already got rather than adding more. Let's copy this one here. I'm just going to Shift and D, duplicate that, and then hit P, selection. So now I've got a new piece here. And I'm going to call this sign 01. And let's go into edit mode. and we just need to make it fit with what we've got. Ignore the texture going weird on it because we're not actually going to use that texture. Okay, let's add some loop cuts to this. Like so. Select the faces. Now let me just hide that for a moment. They're not quite smooth, these faces here, so I'm going to do them separately. Do the top and the bottom one. If I pop that in the wrong place. No, that's about right. So extrude those two. Holding the Z down. The shift button allows me to have a bit more control. Like so. And let's bevel those as well now while they're here. Oops. Control and B, that was just B for. And then let's do the same here. Extrude. Control and B. Let's just move that out a tad. And let's select the whole thing and move it away from its origin. And there, I'd like to think, is our Tardis model. So we're really at a point now where we can apply some of our modifiers. The first one we'll do is this base one here. So let's go back to edit mode, just have a quick look at it again. So we can't apply a modifier in edit mode, so we need to apply the mirror modifier and then apply the array modifier. Now if we shift and H this, it will hide everything but that. Let's go into edit mode, and we don't really need this extra geometry. And when it comes to creating UV maps, or if you're actually doing any more kind of manipulation of geometry, it's always a good idea to have as much clean a mesh as possible. So we'll select these vertices, these edges here, and we'll dissolve those edges. And now if we select either the vertices or the edges, let's do the vertices, then press F, gives us a top, and same at the bottom, F. Okay, so back to object mode, Alt and H to unhide everything. Okay, there's a few things we don't need anymore. We don't need this back reference and top. We can slide. So I will delete those in a moment, but just for now I'm making sure, just doubly making sure I don't need them again. And let's have a look at our model. Okay, there is one thing we need to do. We'll add some more geometry to the actual door itself. So let's select the doors. Let's go back to edit mode. Let's actually go back to look dev mode. And we need to add these bars to the window here. So why don't we select the plane? We know we need to keep that window pane, so we'll duplicate that and we'll just move it out ever so slightly from its back. What am I doing? I hit I for some reason. A scale, did I hit scale? No, add duplicate, yes, I've got my duplicates, and then GY, there we go. Okay, now I can add some loop cuts. And seems to be some, this doesn't seem to quite go to the edges, so I'm going to okay, we don't, let me just hide the doors for a moment. Oh, not the doors, the Control and L. I'm going to select everything apart from what we're working on, and I'm going to get rid of these outside. Delete faces. Actually, before I do that, what I want to do is actually want to bevel to give some thickness to these edges so that I can actually extrude them, but I don't want to use the outside ones. So let's Control and B for bevel. That looks good. And then extrude, like so. It's possibly a bit too much, so let's move that back a tad. That looks pretty good. And we'll deselect everything, double A. Now I can delete those faces I didn't want, like those, 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 and those. Delete faces. I also don't need, actually, do you know what, yeah, no, let's delete those and bring back push those back a little bit now, like so. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's look at it through solid view. And I think detail wise we're almost there. There is one thing I wanted to add, and that was, let's look at a little arm, not an arm, like a panel that goes and separates the two doors on every single one, and I have missed that out. So if I go back to look dev mode, you can see it here. Let's choose the door frame, and let's hide the doors for a moment. Going to just extrude this particular face here, but I'm not going to extrude that one. I'm going to duplicate it, escape, and now extrude it. just move that down manually. Right, I'm going to hit P for selection to separate that part. I'm going to call this door center piece, just so I know what it is. Select my doors and bring them back. I think that looks pretty good. It doesn't want to be quite as thick as it is. Let's go to wireframe. No, let's not go to wireframe. I always think to myself, I'm going to be able to see it very clearly in wireframe, and I never can. Okay, let's hide the doors. Let's select that. Bring my doors back. Let's move that on the y-axis so it's just going to move the whole thing just a tad back. Okay. And now we're done. Good. Okay, so I'm going to just pause it here, and for the next part of this video, we're going to be making next chapter of this video, we're going to be making the UV maps and cleaning it up. I say cleaning it up, add some detail like bevels really, and just smoothing it off, and then texturing it with a very basic texture, and creating some surfaces for the kind of top lights and that sort of thing, and the police box sign as well, and there's a sign on the side and possibly a handle that's missing. So, but for the actual basic TARDIS, I think we're pretty much complete. Let's look at it at solid view, which is really what is the best view at the moment. And yeah, so hopefully that made sense to you, and obviously I will include this actual object in the download link, and also the link to the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. Bye bye.